do you give the Warriors much of a chance in this series, or do you think, man, they're tired, they're old, Minnesota's been sitting, and they just knocked off the Lakers? Is this just a matter of just going to knock off another legend?
I will never count out them Warriors, bro. Every time I've seen a Warriors series where on paper it looks like they're outgunned and outmanned, I look at number 30 on that side and I'm like, it just doesn't matter. It's one of those things where I'm like, okay, you can blink and Steph Curry will have 44, and then they'll steal like the most important game of the series necessary. Like they'll do whatever they can. Where it's like, okay, protect home court. We're gonna steal one game. That's all we need. And I honestly do love everything that Minnesota has been doing in terms of Anthony Edwards making the playmaking leap that he has, being able to improve as a shooter, and then having him, DiVincenzo, Jaden McDaniels, Rudy Gobert, Naz Reid. I think the Timberwolves do have a lot of weapons, so if they play their cards right, they're definitely cool. I probably have them in 6 right now, in terms of winning this series, and especially because it's just how they played against Los Angeles. I was like, okay, that's a little, you can't take the last game because Los Angeles literally played without a center for the entire game. But it's one of those things where they looked like they were clicking that entire series. And I do feel like Anthony Edwards and especially Mike Conley at the helm, those two, it's going to be a really exciting and fun series. And the storylines attached to it also, incredibly great. Like Gobert versus Draymond. Then you have Butler versus Anthony Edwards, and then Butler coming back to Minnesota, where it all went just so haywire. I can't wait.
There's going to be a point in this series. What's more likely, Draymond putting Rudy back in the $1 Million Dream sleeper hold, or Michael Jordan's 2 sons, Jimmy Butler and Anthony Edwards, going face to face and saying, look at me, I'm the captain now. Like, this is just a whole bunch of juicy, like, storytelling. Like, from a writer's standpoint, Kofie, which I am first and foremost, this is the series that I wanted that made the most sense. Like, you get Ant being able to take down another legend as he's taking out all these NBA monuments. And then you got, Jimmy, like you said, going back to Minnesota. This ain't the same Minnesota team that he left, all those years ago, but it's the same franchise, and people have the same feelings toward him. So it's a lot of different things and different ways that we can go about this. I'm very curious to see how Draymond Green handles Rudy Gobert, because we know what he thinks of Rudy Gobert, which means he don't think much of him.
And I think that that's the matchup to watch, honestly, in terms of the fact where we saw Rudy have that masterclass against Los Angeles, and I know that Draymond is going to do everything in his power to make sure that doesn't happen. But at the same time, it's like the Warriors, their inside presence is like, playing Draymond at the 5, playing small, but I feel like the Warriors probably think, and they're probably going to think for a couple of games, that they're like, okay, we can just play small, and if we make Rudy Gobert beat us offensively, then I feel like they live with that in terms of all they have to guard on the perimeter, in terms of the 3-point shooting, in terms of having someone to also take care of Randall, who had a great series against Los Angeles, and inside and outside. Julius Randle as best is a real matchup nightmare for a lot of teams. So I wonder if they're just gonna be like, okay, if Rudy beats us, I mean, we'll have to make him work for it. So
no, it's one of those things where I feel like Golden State has a bunch of options, and I don't think any of them are favorable per se. Like, you can throw Kevon Looney in there and say, okay, Kevon, just lean on Rudy, and Draymond, you guard Julius Randle, so that way you can still roam and do everything else without being vulnerable to the rim. Or you can say, Draymond, you guard Rudy, and Jimmy, you guard Julius Randle. I feel like you're giving up bigger and stronger both ways, and I don't think Draymond Green wants to lose on terms of this team is bigger and stronger than us.
No, for sure. I think that, the pride aspect of him defensively, in terms of being like, he can guard like every position on the court, in my opinion, and I feel like whatever the defensive matchup is, I hope that Steve Kerr is more interested in adjusting this series, because last series, you know, there were some games where it's like, okay, he didn't like make an adjustment until the next game, and then Game 7 came out with the zone that really stifled Houston, because they were the Houston for Game 5 and 6. The double big lineups were really bothering the Warriors,
Yeah.
and the Rockets. Sorry, the Timberwolves can do the double big lineups in terms of like if you want to play Gobert and Reed, if you want to play Reed, well, you know, Reed and Randall, I don't really
Yeah.
consider a double big lineup, but like those are two dynamic forward/centers that can really wreak havoc inside and out. I feel like the Timberwolves can definitely throw different lineups, more versatile lineups than the Rockets ever could. So I can't wait to see the strategy matchups on that front.
And they're more mature. Like Minnesota we think of Minnesota as being the Looney Tunes team, so to speak. But they went to the conference finals last year. They beat the Lakers this year. And guarding Steph, you can put Anthony Edwards on him. I wouldn't recommend having Anthony Edwards chase Steph around all those screens. Like Steph tired out of Ben Thompson last night, the best athlete in the league. He caught cramps chasing Steph around in the fourth quarter. But you can throw Nickeil Alexander-Walker on him. You can throw Jaden McDaniels on him. You can even put Mike Conley on him for minutes or two and just say, okay, we're just going to take these L's. But they have a bunch of different dudes. You can put Dante on Steph. Steph's going to have his hands full with a bunch of fresh and young defenders, like as opposed to just one that was giving him trouble in Ben Thompson. They've got 3 or 4 guys that they can sort of pick their matchups and then, you know, slide everything down and see what they're going to do with Jimmy Butler and Buddy Hield and everybody else. But if I'm Minnesota, I'm gearing everything towards how do we stop Stephen Curry from having like 2 40-point games, which could tilt this series going from an easy 6 to a scary 7.
I totally agree with the defending by committee thing. I feel like when you just put one person on a player for the entire series, especially when that player gets subbed out, I feel like the whole dynamic of the game changes, where it's like, oh, now we can actually take advantage of these non-amend minutes or whatnot. But I think when you have a platoon defending, and Steph Curry, even if he gets his buckets, you know that easy or hard makes, you got to respect it, because it's like, okay, he's the best shooter in the world, and he's still one of the best conditioned athletes in the league at his age. So it's the thing where it's like, of course, with the Warriors beyond Steph, it's like who steps up and provides that extra support, because Steph just being on the court I've always said that Steph being on the court gives the Warriors 8 to 10 free layups a game. You know, you have all these other open shots. It increases the shot quality for everybody else because you're so worried about what he's doing, and that's the game plan wherever he's on the court. So I just know that Minnesota have the tools and the talent defensively to put a game plan together. It's just a matter of what the Warriors do to counter that, because they have so many built-in counters to that offense that when it's all clicking, you have no answers, and you're all looking at each other on defense, being like, "What's going on?" And you're like, "No, actually." When you look back at the film, you're like, "What else could we have done?"
Yeah. Well, and I think for Minnesota, this is going to be such a different test because from round 1, because LeBron and Luka, for all their gifts, they're dudes that was just standing on the perimeter waiting for the ball. You got to watch Steph from the moment that he crosses half court, even if he doesn't have it, even if Pajimski's bringing it up or Jimmy's bringing it up or Draymond's bringing it up. Like, you have to really be completely disciplined and 24/7 concentration, almost like surveillance. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know who has the surveillance on Steph Curry in that way, but I'm gonna ask you your official prediction. I think you said Wolves in 6. Is that the official prediction from you? Or are you willing to say 7? Or are you willing to say Warriors?
I'm gonna say Wolves in 6. I think the Warriors do steal a game at the Minnesota Timberwolves house, and then the series starts from there. But I think that the Minnesota Timberwolves are gonna win in 6. Yeah.
I have a hard time. I tend to be with you. I think the games being every other day for the first 5 games helps Minnesota, because that's a younger team compared to an older team. They literally go every other day, even with the changes in venues, for the first 5 games. And then there's a long, like, 4-day break between games 5 and 6. I think that's because the WNBA team, the Valkyries, play at Chase I think May 16th, and they want to give that some runway. That might help the Warriors going into Game 6. So that being said, I'll say the Wolves will win in 7. They'll come back home and they'll win in 7. But them butt cheeks gonna be tight, Kofie, in a Game 7. Them cheeks gonna be tight.
Hamstrings, calves, everything gonna be sore. Just nothing but potassium on the court, man. You know it.
Tight. Look, they're gonna be tight like Luther Vandross. Tight like Luther Vandross' cheeks. Tight like Barry White. Woo! Like it's gonna be tight. It's gonna be very. Look, you don't want to see Steph Curry in a Game 7 where he's the underdog, where he can walk into your building and steal a game. That would scare, lack of a better phrase, that would scare the shit out of me.